They fined me $2,000 for swimming in the lake I'd known since before I could write my name. That was their first mistake. What started as a lazy family weekend became a legal slugfest, a land war, and the spectacular collapse of an entire HOA dynasty over one man, one lake, and a fight they never saw coming. You want a story about justice? Stick around. I still remember how Harmon Lake looked that morning, sunlight bouncing off the water just like when I was a kid, back when my dad used to carry me into the frigid water, both of us laughing so hard we could barely breathe. Decades later, it felt like nothing had changed, me kids hollering about how cold it was, my wife grinning from the shore, filming us all for the millionth time. We'd driven up to the old cabin in West Creek late Friday, moved back into the log house my granddad built with his own hands, and for once, it felt like all the years between then and now had folded away. That lake wasn't just water, it was memory. It was where I learned to swim, caught my first fish, where I taught my own kids to float, how to trust that the water would hold them. It belonged to those who respected it, not to any one person. So when I saw a security guard on the ridge, blue HOA shirt flashing in the sun, I figured it was some new neighbor who'd gotten lost. But then came the Range Rover crawling down the gravel, and out steps this woman, sunglasses so sharp they could cut glass, strutting over like she owned the sky. "Excuse me," she snaps. "You need to get out of the water. This is a restricted amenity." She's waving a tablet like it's a badge of honor. I can't help but laugh. "Ma'am, I've been swimming here since I was 6. That cabin over the hill? Built by my granddad." She doesn't flinch. "If you're not HOA, you're trespassing." I tried to stay calm, tried to explain, but she was already snapping a picture of me and the kids. "Consider this your first violation." Then she walks off like that's the end of it. 2 days later, thick white envelope, $2,000 fine, unauthorized access, threat of legal action, permanent ban from the water. My wife froze at the table. My daughter asked if something was wrong. I lied, told her no, but I could feel everything tightening up inside me. That lake was part of my bones, and now a stranger with a clipboard was trying to erase me with a photo and a signature. Couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Ither's smug grin, the arrogance, the sense that some folks really think if they say something loud enough, it becomes true. But see, I'm not the type to roll over. By morning, I had the dining table covered with deeds, old maps, utility bills, my granddad's topo surveys from the 70s. He kept everything. Hell, if you needed the Ark of the Covenant, you'd check Grandpa's filing cabinet first. The more I read, the more I realized something didn't add up. No record of Willow Pines HOA in any of my paperwork, no mention of them in county records. Harmon Lake wasn't even parceled in most maps, it just existed. A natural resource, neither public nor private, living in a legal gray zone. But then, tucked away in a recent map, I spotted a note subject to access agreement. Turns out, in 2011, the kids of a man named Grant signed a use and maintenance agreement with the HOA. Not a sale, not a deed, just a flimsy paper promising community stewardship. No transfer of ownership, just murky language. I took the whole pile down to the county office. Valerie at the desk recognized my name. "You looking into the lake? You're not the first." She explained, "Nobody owns the water. Never have. Shoreline's fragmented, but the water's like fighting over clouds." I left feeling sharper than ever. If the HOA didn't own the water, how could they fine me for being in it? That night, on a hunch, I ran a business search. There it was, Harmon Lake Community Services LLC, registered the same year as the agreement, run by Thomas Dwell, husband of Karen Dwell, our new lake sheriff. A shell company, no business reports, no real services. Just a legal ghost, and Karen's fingerprints were all over it. Next morning, I called Cindy, my old law school friend. She took one look at the documents over diner coffee, laughed, and said, "This is fraud adjacent at best. If I bought up the shoreline, I'd control the water. That's how it works in Montana non-navigable lake, shoreline rules." It took 48 hours to track down the last 2 shoreline owners. Walter Remick, old and tired in Arizona, just wanted the land off his taxes. Louise Hatcher, widow, needed some convincing and a fair price. Bought their parcels. Over 65% of the lake perimeter was now mine. Irony, right? They fined me for swimming, so I bought the lake. I put up signs, hired Rob to weld custom steel posts, set up cameras, registered the whole thing as a private reserve, sent a cease and desist to the HOA, made them take down every sign calling it a community amenity, declared the water off limits, except by written invitation. Guess who got the first invite? My family, my friends, everyone. Karen tried to push out, but the HOA came swinging back. Their lawyer fired off a letter claimed community entitlement under unwritten local custom. Please, they'd built their little empire on vapor. I poured a whiskey, watched the sunset from my new dock, and waited for the next move. Didn't take long. Glenn, my neighbor, called, "You might want to see this." Drove past the main trail, massive new banner, Harmon Lake Community Access Preserved. Floating platform back in the water, solar lights and all. Karen's style petty and theatrical. I sent another cease and desist, cited state trespass laws. They ignored it. So I called the Department of Natural Resources, dropped off drone footage, GPS data, emails from a former insider. DNRC agents came out, took one look, and hit the HOA with $75,000 in fines, unpermitted structure, environmental violations, blocking private easement. I nearly choked on my coffee laughing. Of course, the HOA sued me, claimed I'd staged a land grab, violated community spirit. I brought every deed, every map, every violation report to court. Cindy made the HOA's case look like a kid's lemonade stand, brought up the fake LLC, the shell leases, the whole scam. The judge wasn't having it. Ruled for me, upheld my property rights, ordered HOA to remove everything from my land, and called for a financial audit of their spending. Now here's where it gets good. Turns out Karen had been using HOA funds for her private war, over $112,000 labeled as shoreline maintenance and legal defense, all funneled through her own fake company, with no board vote, no member notification, nothing. Lydia, a techie neighbor, started a group chat, organized a special meeting. Members demanded receipts, called out backdated minutes. And when someone finally asked, "Why are we paying lawyers to sue over land we don't own?" Karen's empire crumbled in real time. The audit found $100,000 in unauthorized fees, 6 years of crooked bookkeeping. County prosecutor got the files. Karen was arrested for fraud and embezzlement, handcuffed in her driveway, still clutching a monogrammed binder. Local news ran with it. I just said, "We want our neighborhoods to feel like home, not hostile takeovers." 2 months later, she's charged with 6 felonies. HOA pays out a $330,000 settlement, $180K straight to me. That weekend, I took my family out on a boat, barbecue on the deck, not a care in the world. The dock was ours. The water was quiet. Karen wouldn't be back. But people talk. Some folks rolled past the gate, staring, filming, like they still thought the lake belonged to them. I set up a website, Riverstone Waters, offering access to respectful neighbors, if they could show stewardship and weren't tied to the HOA. Most folks respected the boundary, but there was always some pushback, graffiti on my signs, angry letters, a midnight trespasser smearing tar on the old wooden plaque I'd put up. After that, I tightened security cameras, motion lights, my dad's old friend Jake patrolling the trails with his dog. Then I went bigger, filed paperwork to designate the land as an ecological preserve with state backing. That made trespassing a criminal offense, and the HOA could never touch the water again. We threw a spring barbecue, music, good food, laughter echoing off the water. No HOA people, just families who'd been locked out for years. The flag on the floating dock read, "You can't own a memory, but you can damn well protect it." I watched the cars on the county road, HOA folks peeking through the trees. Let them look. By summer, the lake was a living memory, our memory, not a playground for paper tyrants. My son asked if I'd ever let the other side back in. "Maybe," I said, "if they ask like people, not landlords." He grinned, dropped a wrench in the water, and I just laughed. Then, out of nowhere, a letter from Karen. No apology, just some mangled reflection about loss and pride. I slid it into my granddad's deed binder, right next to his old fishing photo. That night, I walked to the water alone. Moonlight on the surface, colder and cleaner than ever. I trailed my fingers in the lake, felt the weight of everything that changed. The fight wasn't just about property. It was about drawing a line and holding it and teaching the next generation where that line belongs. The plaque on the pine tree says it best. This lake taught my children to float the way it taught me to stand. This water belongs to memory, not to meetings and minutes. Lies don't grant ownership. Beneath it now, a final line, brass on wood: we didn't inherit the lake. We earned it. So tell me, where do you stand? Rules and paperwork decide what's right, or do you fight for the places and memories that make you who you are? Drop your story below, debate the mess, and tell me, what would you do if someone tried to take your history away?